Oh, that's right. We're live again here on Locked On 76ers. Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta. So much to get into. VJ on PG's podcast. He set rookie goals for himself and also talked about what he wants to do with this 76ers team and how close they are to winning a championship. All that and more in this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Keith, before we get into the playoff P, podcast P with VJ Edgecombe and all that, as a long-time writer, where do you stand on players having their own outlets nowadays?
I don't really have a problem with it. I know a lot of people do. The only thing that I don't like about it, if we're going to be honest, is like when you ask a guy a question and like during a press conference and they're kind of sort of like, and they give you the company line and then the next day you go to their podcast and they're basically like giving all the juicy quotes, giving all the information. Paul George did that a couple of times. But aside from that, I know a lot of fans don't really like it, but I don't have a problem because I look at it for what it is, that these guys, tend to be later in their careers for the most part. It's not always that way. But what they're doing is they're transitioning themselves for like life after basketball. So I do not have a problem with it. No.
I'm with you. And I thought you were going to go another angle. I thought you were going to go with when you ask a guy a question in a press conference, he's like, I talk about that on my podcast.
Well, there's been a couple who said that now. Paul, who was it? What's his name? What's my man's name? He played for the Sixers 2 years ago. Patrick Beverley. Yeah, Patrick Beverley would tell you that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. That's the only time it would drive me crazy. Is if like, dude, no, I'm asking you the question now. Just give me the answer. And other than that, I love because look, as far as I'm concerned, in our line of work, your line of work as a writer, our line of work as hosting a talk show here. If they're talking, we're talking. You know what I mean? So I love that. And plus, I think players when they're comfortable, they're going to give you more information no matter what. And they're definitely comfortable on their own show.
Yeah.
So I love listening to these. I love the little nugget drops. You could go, wait a minute, what was that? And then you could go back, you can listen to it, whatever it might be. And the thing that I found really interesting, there's a number of things that I found interesting about Paul George having VJ Edgecombe on his podcast, and we'll go through a couple of them. We also going to get to the NBA, NBA.com, ranked the East, Keith. And it pretty much is exactly what you laid out yesterday on this show as far as people saying it's a wide open East. Well, there's some other teams that, sure, the Celtics might have somebody banged up. The Pacers might have somebody banged up. But there's other teams that are rising and also have risen past the Sixers already. So we'll talk about that as the show goes on. And then this will be a new daily segment until it actually goes down. Grimes Watch here on Locked On 76ers. But among the things, Keith, I picked up from this podcast was VJ Edgecombe, just number one. It just reinforces what a competitor this guy is. Gym rat 100%, loves to be in the gym, loves to work on his game, loves to work his butt off. He's not one that looks to trash talk, but if you start giving him directions to the low road, he'll gladly race you on that road. So I really enjoyed that. His goals, rookie year, he wants to be rookie of the year. He wants to be all defensive team in his rookie season. He says people think that's going to be hard for a rookie. It's not going to be hard for me, according to VJ Edgecombe. And then how about this? Win a championship above all else. But also, I haven't really heard too many college players talk about this. Quote, I hated college basketball. I hated college basketball. I went, ooh, what was that? And he goes, for that game, that style of play, there's two bigs in the paint. I'm shooting from the outside. I'm trying to attack the rim. There's no room to attack the rim. But then I play one game of summer league. I can drive the basket, kick it out to Janai Broom. He knocks down a three. I'm like, this is a much easier brand of basketball. Now, I'll say what we say all the time through Summer League and what fans say through Summer League, Keith. It's Summer League. This ain't the real deal just yet. So I'm going to hold off on that if I'm VJ Edgecombe. But he just let it rip, Keith. He likes the style of play in the NBA far more than he likes what he was doing in college.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's a fair assessment, a correct assessment for him to say, because when you look at his game, you know, his game is basically predicated on spacing, and the college game. Let's face it, like, you know, he goes to Baylor. They had a couple other guys, but you know, he was by far the best player, right? And what happens is, well, they do clog the middle because they know what you can do. But with the NBA game, the spacing is going to be there. You know, a lot of people are going to focus on Embiid. They're going to focus on Maxey. They're going to focus on George. And that's going to enable him to just utilize what his strengths are, which are, you know, crashing the boards, getting, you know, blowing by people, doing a lot of other things. So it made sense. Initially, I was like, whoa, he said that? But then when you thought about it, yeah, and you are right. It is going to get tougher for him. But I think that if he was playing for, let's say, the Washington Wizards, if he was playing for the Utah Jazz, if he was playing for a team, the Brooklyn Nets, a team that was struggling, a team that's expected to struggle, and he would have to be the focal point, I think that people will have an easier time to defend him. But when he's on the floor with those other guys, you know, he's going to be the third or fourth option defensively, right? You know, they're going to worry about focusing on other people, to whereas he's going to be able to blow by people and get to the rim and get layups and stuff like that. So I could understand 100% where he's coming from.
The other thing PG said to VJ Edgecombe, so VJ's, you know, saying the NBA game is going to fit his game a lot better. And then I think Paul George stopped short of apologizing, like literally saying, I'm sorry, but it was in the tone of, sorry, I missed your workout with the Sixers. I just had the kids together and everything. It just couldn't work out, whatever. So it didn't work out for him to be at VJ Edgecombe's workout. But this was I think the heaviest line of the entire interview, which was about 50 minutes long, the entire thing, maybe closer to an hour, is Paul George just said, what you got is what we need. What your game is what this Sixers team needs. He said, obviously, defensively, the quickness, the speed, the overall incredible athleticism, we need that here with this 76ers team. Referred to himself throughout the interview as an old head and all that. And look, when we talked about this Sixers team and the draft, we talked a lot about Ace Bailey. We talked a lot about VJ Edgecombe. And the thing that was the overriding thing that when it came to positivity about VJ Edgecombe was the work ethic and the athleticism. And that's what PG is looking at with VJ and saying, this is exactly what we need. Everything that is in your bag of tricks, we need on this 76ers team. And I 100% agree with that.
But it's weird, though, because, you know, when we look at it before the draft, they were saying everything that Ace Bailey provided is what they need.
PG especially.
I mean, again, I do think, yeah, especially PG. So I get it. But at the same time, when he says that, like, which one is it? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We need a long, athletic wing who can do certain things. Now, all of a sudden, we need another guard who can get up and run the floor and do a lot of other things. So I understand what Paul George is saying. I do. But a lot of guys says things completely different before the 76ers made the move, though. If we're going to be real. If we're going to be
now,
real.
look, I agree. No, we're 100% always real. That's what we do on this show. Always real. The thing with this is, okay, I agree that what he has, they need. They need someone who could defend like that and someone who could attack the rim like that. Because Maxey can certainly attack the rim. He can certainly shoot from the outside, but he's not defending like that. That's something that we know he needs to improve on in his game. I think Jared McCain is very good all around. Improving on his defense a little bit more would be great as well. But the sheer athleticism of VJ Edgecombe, he doesn't have. So you talk about the bag of tricks, he's got that. I think the bigger bag of tricks still goes to, as far as a difference maker goes, that goes to Ace Bailey. So as I am listening to this interview, Keith, I am thinking back to Paul George's comments about how great Ace Bailey is, you know, all that stuff. And I'm like, all right, if he was interviewing Ace Bailey right now, would he be doing cartwheels? Because he does seem pretty excited about having VJ Edgecombe here with the 76ers. That was 100%, as you're saying, that was in the back of my mind as this interview was going down. what do you make of the rookie goals? Rookie of the year. He says if he wins Rookie of the Year, he's not changing his number from 77. He's going to keep 77 if he wins Rookie of the Year. What do you make of he wants Rookie of the Year, all defensive team, and obviously winning a championship? What do you make of those?
Ooh, I think there are goals that you should have, right? I think that, when you come in there, you always want to say you want to achieve the best. But to me, it's kind of like, is a catch-22. One of those things where if you get Rookie of the Year, and we talked about this yesterday, I don't think they're winning the championship. I mean, I just don't. I mean, and again, that's not a knock to him or anything like that. It's just, it tells me that in order for him to win Rookie of the Year, it tends to mean you got to have a breakout season. Like if he was a point guard and he was having all these assists and stuff like that, yeah, I can understand that. But for him, that means for him to get Rookie of the Year, he is going to have to put up a lot of points, which tells me that Joel Embiid and Paul George aren't doing the things that they need to do. And in order for this team to win the championship, especially Joel Embiid has to do it. But you know what? That's the goal you have to come out in your head, and you have to say that. Like all defensive team, let's see what he does. Let's see how many minutes he gets. The one thing is that Daryl Morey did come out and say that we want people to be patient with him, right? We want people to be patient with him. Another thing is, the Sixers are still adamant, and we'll talk about this later on, about bringing Quentin Grimes back. And if Quentin Grimes gets paid, you would assume that Quentin Grimes will be the starting two guard, right? Unless they go a 3-guard lineup with those 3 guys, you assume that that's going to be hard for VJ Edgecombe to accomplish all these goals that he has for himself. But I love it. I love hearing it because, it's kind of like, oh, well, I just want to fit in and learn and do all this other stuff. That's not what you want to hear. You want to hear a guy who wants to be the guy, who wants to be the guy, who wants to be the GOAT, so to speak. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Hey, look, if it comes down to it and VJ Edgecombe has to compete to actually win the Rookie of the Year award, meaning he'll actually be in contention for it, well, then I'll be rooting for him, obviously. But when it comes to how good the Sixers year as a team is going to be, which is overall the most important, I don't want to see it. Because as you said yesterday and reiterate just now, that means other things have gone horribly wrong if he's going to be in contention truly for the Rookie of the Year award. 2 more quick things on this. One thing he talked about was Jimmy Butler, Pacers, Oladipo. When Oladipo was playing for the Pacers, those are the kind of the guys that he does like the comps with. He watches a lot of Anthony Edwards. He wants to, make sure he can model his game a little bit after him. Thought that was interesting. And then also, if the 76ers are a healthy team, they're competing to win the championship. And I mean, look, for all the negativity or realness that we talked about yesterday, I agree. The Sixers are a healthy team. We're talking about a team that's going to compete to win a championship in the NBA. Do you agree with that?
Man, and only if Embiid is back at an MVP level and Paul George plays like he did 2 seasons ago. The only thing that gets me is the wild card is, I mean, we know what the Knicks got better, if you ask me. Picking up Yabusele, picking up some of the other free agents that they picked up, and they got a coach that's not going to wear them out. Cleveland, Orlando, Detroit. No, Embiid and them have to play at elite level, but no, I don't see them competing for the Eastern Conference because my thing is, even if Embiid and Paul George plays at an elite level, name someone coming off the bench at a 4 or 5 position who they can depend on to go up against those other teams. I mean, is there somebody there? Because we're talking about Detroit and, Jason A-Team, my man, brought up Detroit. I mean, dude, they have a starting center, a legit backup center. We made fun of Tobias Harris, but Tobias Harris would be a good fit for the 76ers right now. We look at the Twin Towers that Cleveland has, right?
Right.
I mean, you look at the Knicks. Is there anybody? I'm asking you, Mark, a question, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but who from that four backup, any power forward, but that backup 5 position, who you think you can have 100% that's saying they're going to produce and give you valuable minutes?
Well, I'll put it to you like this:
in the postseason.
Yeah, look, my mind goes right to a healthy Joel Embiid, feeling great. Let me say, as I've been saying for the last 2 months, we've been talking on the show, it ain't happening. But in the world of the biggest if I believe in all of sports is if Joel Embiid is healthy, what can the Sixers do? Well, I think they can compete for a championship. And the reason I think that is because I looked at 65-70% of Joel Embiid taking the Knicks to a game 6. And that's with all due respect to B-Ball Paul, a crash and burn when he came in for Joel Embiid. I don't think that happens again. When I talk about a healthy Sixers, I'm not just talking about Paul George and Joel Embiid being healthy, but Andre Drummond's still healthy. I'm talking about a Dembona coming off the bench to help you as well. That's what I'm looking at. I don't think you have that same crash and burn with those guys coming off the bench that you saw, for instance, in B-Ball Paul, for instance. I also think that if you could have Paul George more as that 4 spot and he's healthy, I think that also helps out your starting lineup. And then you're talking about potentially Janai Broom coming off the bench. You're talking about Watford coming off the bench if he's not already in your starting lineup by then. So as far as if they're going to be as good without the marquee starters, no, obviously not. And yes, there is still a big drop-off at the bench, but not nearly as much as we saw in those 6 games against the Knicks where Joel Embiid was a shell of himself before he had his first surgery of the 2, before he played in the Olympics and then had the next one. But yeah, I don't think there's nearly as much of a drop-off as we saw 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it and I feel like they're putting, in order for them to compete against these teams, they're putting a lot of faith and pressure into guys who are into the rotation type guys on other teams or guys who they were rotation players on bad teams. So the thing is, to win, yes, you have to have dominant players. But as we learned with Oklahoma City Thunder, as we learned with the Boston Celtics 2 years ago, as we learned with the Indiana Pacers, you got to have quality reserves, guys who are capable of starting at other teams, right? That can fill that thing in. Because you said, Joel can do it, but you're going to need some guys, like you're going to need a game where Kelly Oubre just plays like on fire. And it's like, wow, Kelly Oubre had a type of game where Trendon Watford is like having people chanting Watford, stuff like that.
The Watford game.
Yeah, you got to have a Watford game, so you have to have that. And again, it's not to say, if we're going to be objective, it's not to say that these guys can't do it. It's just that they've never shown that yet. Mm-hmm. Whereas you look at these other teams and they have guys who have shown that, like guys who, we look at the Knicks, they had guys who were at other teams who won, who were productive, who played in NBA championship games, things like that. It just here, the Sixers picked up guys who were rotation players on bad teams,
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. The last thing, he talked about him and Cooper Flagg, VJ Edgecombe. Him and Cooper Flagg are totally cool. There's a lot of love there, despite the high school viral moment of them talking trash to one another. And then at the end of the interview, they always ask the guest to ask Paul George questions. It was like, what's it like playing in the Olympics? Russell Westbrook, what was it like playing for him? What was it like for you playing in the Olympics? What's it like playing with Russell Westbrook? Because that's one of the heroes of VJ Edgecombe. And there's one question I feel like he should have asked that he didn't ask. Like, how you feeling, dude? Hey, Paul George, how are you? Because we kind of need you. It's not just going to be me coming in here making a difference, but you got, I don't know, 42 games in you. You got 50 games in you. How you feeling? Question was not asked for anyone that might be curious.
Yeah, or maybe edit it out.
Yeah, right.
You know?
How you feeling? Terrible.
Yeah.
I'm 35 years old. I got the knees of an 80-year-old. No. But overall it was a good interview, a fun interview. Lots of good nuggets in there for Sixers fans. You guys want to check that out later. When we come back, you alluded to it already when you talk about the rest of the Eastern Conference. NBA.com ranked it. We're going to talk about that when we return. This is Locked On Sixers podcast on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. And right now, let's talk about 5-Hour Energy. How fantastic is this? Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Let's be honest, some days on the course or you're a little off, right? Need to get focused. You need just that little extra boost to stay sharp and energized. What's the wildest shot you've ever made? Was it a total fluke or a well-calculated miracle? For me, it definitely wasn't well-calculated, but it was fueled by 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. That's why I love it on the golf course, especially in the dog days of summer. Might not get the sleep that you need. A lot going on. 5-Hour Energy is where it's at. Offer, by the way, from 5-Hour Energy. How about this? Number 5hourenergy.com. Go to the 5-Hour Energy, the number 5hourenergy.com, and you can use the promo code LOCKEDONGOLF. That's Locked On Golf to receive 20% off your order. Offer is valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, by the way. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36 holes, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. That's 5hourenergy.com. NBA.com, Keith. You sent this to me after yesterday's show when we were talking about the rankings and all that. This story came out just the other day, and they ranked the Eastern Conference teams. I'll go from number 10 on up here. At number 10 is the Raptors. Number 9 is the Pacers. Number 8, the Miami Heat. Number 7, your Philadelphia 76ers. Then it's the Bucks. And in the top 5, the Hawks, the Pistons, the Magic, the Knicks, and then the Cleveland Cavaliers. If I got to look at this, Keith, at a glance, I'd say fair. That's pretty fair, but how much are they depending on Joel Embiid? How much are they depending on Paul George? What do you make of ranking in there at number 7 in the Eastern Conference on NBA.com?
You know, and that's a great question because a lot of it is depending on those two, and there's a lot of uncertainty. You know, so yeah, everything is extremely dependent on them because let's face it, the 76ers. Now I know they did tank, and you know they're up 7. They're up to 7. You know, from being like 13th at the end of last season. So people will say that's a major jump, right? Mm. But when you factor it in, we talk about, you know, everything has to be predicated on the health of these two injured players. But when we talk about players that they bring in, so Quentin Grimes, we expect him to come back, right? But when you look at the 76ers, the key additions, the two key additions that they have are VJ Edgecombe and Trendon Watford, right? So then let's go up. So then we go to number 6, the Milwaukee Bucks. Key additions, Miles Turner, Cole Anthony, and Gary Harris. Now, again, they lost Dame Lillard, Brook Lopez, and Pat Connaughton, but Dame was injured. Brook Lopez is getting older. Pat Connaughton barely played, right? So now that's number 6. So let's go up to the Atlanta Hawks. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard, Kristaps Porzingis. Dude, Then you look at, so that's the Hawks. Now we're going to go to Detroit. Karis LeVert, Duncan Robinson, right? Then you go up to, what's the next team? The next team is the Orlando Magic. Tyus Jones, Desmond Bain. Then you go to the Knicks. They got Jordan Clarkson and Gershon Yabusele, who upset a lot of people. And then you go down to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who had, a 64-18 record last year. They lost in the second round, but they bring in Alonzo Ball, which is, you're gambling on him because of his injury history, but you have Larry Nance. So when we look at the 76ers, the Sixers really have injury concerns. But then when you look at who they brought in, no offense to these, because I think VJ Edgecombe is going to be a great player. I do like what Trendon Watford does. But when you compare these teams to what these other squads ahead of them did, dude, they got blown out the water in the offseason. I mean, they did. Like, the two guys that they're dependent on are Joel Embiid, one guy who says he doesn't want to rush back, and then Paul George, another guy who said they're going to be cautious with leading into the season. But we're talking about the Knicks and all these guys. Dude, believe me, if the Sixers did what the Knicks did in regards to getting Jordan Clarkson and was able to keep Yabusele, everyone in Philly would be going crazy. You know what I mean? Like, they just would. Yeah. And then you look at these other teams, like look at what Milwaukee was able to do. I mean, they basically got rid of injured players and players who didn't play, or a guy who looked too old at the end of the season, and they got youthful or experienced. So when you look at that, you have to say to yourself that them being ranked 7th is just about right, man. It really is. It really is.
Well, let me ask you this. What's the bigger, to me, this is obvious, but what's the bigger question? Like in terms of something, it says key question. Do you think it's Paul George or do you think it's Joel Embiid? Because I think in terms of the success of the Sixers, it has more to do with Joel Embiid. What do you think?
You know what? I think Joel Embiid is the success. That's a great question, though, because I think the success is more dependent in regards to winning the championship is Joel Embiid, right? You need Joel Embiid to be playing at a high level.
Yeah.
However,
real quick, the reason I bring it up is because in their article, they say the key question is, what does George have left? And I'm like, wait a minute.
No, but I kind of agree with it. That's why I was about to say because here's the deal. We all know what Joel can do, right? When he's healthy. So the biggest question mark for Joel Embiid is, how is it with his health? The question mark with Paul George is he shot or was he injured? Because, Paul George is a guy who basically struggled injury-wise over, a bunch of seasons. It's been one of those things. But the 1 year that he got paid, when he got that max deal from the Sixers, came off of a year that he was basically healthy. But even though all that happened, the LA Clippers let him walk. So you say to yourself, is he shot or was he injured? How come this team didn't really fight to keep him? You understand what I'm saying? Like, so to me, when we say it's George, like Embiid, yes, Embiid, if he's a dominant player, he can do stuff. But even with that being said, he was unable to get the 76ers out of the second round. Paul George came and the Sixers gave up a lot for Paul George, like just got rid of a bunch of people for him to come in and be that missing link. So that's why, to me, it's both of them, if that makes sense. That's why George is important.
Gotcha. Yeah. I feel like we've said a lot of the same stuff about Embiid, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like, is he shot or is he just hurt? And it's like, well, here's the other thing, and just to get this out of the way. With both these players, even if they're ready to go in game one, to me, I think I'm with a lot of people that just I feel like there's this gray cloud. And I wasn't one of these people throughout Joel Embiid's career that just like every time he hit the ground, you're like, oh my God, is he okay? I wasn't that. I was like, that's part of basketball. But now I am absolutely in that camp. But now it's with him and Paul George, where if every time they hit the ground, every time there's an awkward, I don't know, defensive movement or whatever, I'm going to go, okay, they're fine. Or, they're going to be out for 2 months. That's, I feel like it's a very sensitive thing that we're going to be following throughout the year, even when if it's the first week of the season, it's the first game of the season, or it's February. I feel like we're still going to have that hanging over our heads, unfortunately. All right. Well, real quick, blink of a break, and then our daily installment, Keith, of Grimes Watch. That's when we return. This is Locked On 76ers. Any movement? Keith, any movement on Quentin Grimes? Anybody offer him anything yet? Anything going on there? Any whispers?
Nah. They're sitting back, just relaxing. They're sitting back. Like, again, I keep, like, as we said yesterday,
right.
I'm thinking that, everything is going to happen once we find out what's going to happen with the Golden State Warriors, right? And then after that we'll see. But nah,
Kuminga, Giddey,
Kuminga, but I think he'll start it off. But here's the deal, man. Like, you'll be a fool to throw money at Quentin Grimes. And we talk about it before, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but what I'm saying is you're doing that like basically knowing the 76ers are going to match it. It's probably, what a team would do is like, look, man, you guys are slowing up the NBA schedule. So what I'm gonna do is I got my PR people and all these people trying to get stuff in order. So what I'm gonna do is to make everything move is I'm gonna offer the guy $20 million. And guess what, Philly? I know you're gonna match it in 48 hours. And that way we can get the schedule and everything set up for Christmas and all this other stuff. But the question I got to ask for you, if the Sixers are projected to be the 7th best team in the East,
okay,
do you expect them to play on Christmas?
Ooh, doggy. No, I mean,
they still do have 3 max players, but
yeah, it's an interesting thing. As someone who worked behind the scenes for 11 years on primetime football, I remember something the great Fred Gaudelli told me years ago, and that was the producer of Sunday Night Football, and that is to get the primetime games, to get the big games, you have to prove that you are a coach, a GM, and obviously players, that you are trustworthy.
Yeah.
Are the Sixers trustworthy? Sixers are not. And I mean, by trustworthy, I mean you're going to put a good product out there, so you're going to have butts in the seats watching a big game. Sixers don't have that trust factor. I know trust the process is a big deal, but
here's the thing. Like, you think about it. What was it? Was it 2 years ago? I want to say, so last year Embiid played. But I remember when they went to Miami, and the big thing was Jimmy Butler and Joel. And I believe neither one of those guys played in that Christmas Day game.
Yeah.
So
I don't think either of them played yet.
It's kind of sort of like if you're the league and you're knowing that Joel is a little iffy on if he's going to play or not, it's kind of like, well, maybe we might want to get another matchup. Maybe we might maybe we might just try to, have Minnesota playing at OKC or you know what I mean? Like,
NBA flex schedule.
Yeah, NBA flex schedule, or have like, the Knicks, and I don't even think it's going to be Boston, but have like the Knicks go up against Cleveland or Orlando. Let's see if Orlando could get a Christmas Day game.
Yeah, man.
Orlando and Detroit.
Boy.
But I think it would be more like it could be New York and Detroit. It could be. That would be crazy.
That would be. Yeah, that'd be pretty bonkers. I'd watch it.
Yeah.
I'd watch it. His name is Keith Pompey, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you guys are reading his stuff on Inquirer.com, and also make sure you guys are liking and subscribing right here on Locked On 76ers YouTube channel for your daily Locked On 76ers needs. Also, you got a triple dip of me today. 76ers now, just wrapping. Locked On Eagles Squad podcast, Locked On Eagles Squad show coming up at noon today on Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. And then tonight, Phillies, White Sox postcast with yours truly on the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel as well. They keep me busy, Keith. They keep me busy. Make sure you guys will like it and subscribe. My name is Marc Farzetta. That's Keith Pompey. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow, breaking it down even further when it comes to your 10-9-8 76ers right here on your Locked On 76ers YouTube channel.